Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have, and usually they're pretty trending, whatever you want to call it. They're really appropriate for what's going on in the world or what people are asking. And of course, right now we're talking a lot about how we can fight this virus that's going around. And I have to admit, one of my biggest frustrations is, a lot of people out there going, well, if you're not wearing a mask, you're being selfish. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna lie. My biggest frustration with the mask situation is, I work really hard to eat well, exercise, keep myself as healthy as possible. I don't get sick. Honestly, I think I've already had the virus in February, but I'm frustrated that I'm being penalized anyway for the choices that I've made, which is to stay healthy. But what I'm really finding is, I get it. Like 100% I get it. We have a huge part of our population that is high risk, and we do need to be aware of that and be sensitive to that. But as I have stated more than once at this point, that masks may or may not be the solution. I'm hearing more on the side of they're really not doing much for us. And even if they are the answer for the moment, they are not the solution. I really personally think that with the situation and the way they talk, that this virus is mutating and morphing, that maybe it's something that's going to be around to stay. So really what it comes down to is building an immune system that can handle the situation. For people that are asymptomatic and don't seem to have any issues with it, there's a reason. And part of it might partially, think about who is having the extreme reactions, who's being hospitalized for it. It really comes down to predominantly the older generations where, of course, they have multiple issues or what they call I can't even talk today, comorbidities, which means there's already an underlying situation or illness that is that's playing a role in the hospitalization or the reason why they're having such a severe reaction. So let's talk a little bit about how we can actually ourselves help boost our immune system, because really that's what it's going to come down to. Think about it. If we're going to have this situation every fall like we do the flu, we better be able to fight this. So I really find that we have a huge issue in our industrialized country where we are not healthy. We're malnutritioned, right? And I know that some people are going to disagree with me, but really we're eating a huge diet of food that's void of it's full of calories, but it's void of actual nutrients, vitamins, and minerals, whereby we're deficient. We're malnutritioned in the things that we need. We don't just run on calories. We run on actual nutrients. That's what our body needs to function. And if you think about, I feel like this is really, you don't need to see the ceiling in my kitchen. If you remember that, they finally discovered that citrus and sauerkraut helped avoid scurvy. The vitamin C. So it just makes sense that when there's a lot of illnesses that we deal with that come down to a deficiency in certain vitamins and minerals, that maybe that's part of the problem with our immune system and dealing with this. So let's talk about different things that you can do personally to help build your immune system so that it can be prepared for the situation. Now, like I said, I'm like 99% sure that I had it in late February. I had the symptoms, the fever, the fatigue, and like I said, I don't get sick. I don't get sick unless I really overdo life. I just don't get sick. And I just remember thinking, wow, this must be a doozy if I'm this sick. And I missed 8 days of work in 2 weeks, and that never ever happens. I really literally haven't been sick in years at this point. So let's talk about how to build your immune system. Now, I do a lot of research because I'm a huge nerd, and I find it fascinating, and not just in nutrition, but just in biology in general. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the first year that I've actually done a huge amount of research in politics. I don't care much for politics, but I believe that, of course, we kind of need to, considering it's an election year and maybe one of the reasons why we're dealing with all this garbage. But let's talk really quickly. I want to just briefly about something called T regulatory cells. I'm not going to bore you. Just realize that those are something that you have in your body that help balance your immune system. It helps to deal with whether or not what you're dealing with is something that needs to be taken care of as something foreign in your body, and that your immune system needs to participate. But it also prevents your body from overreacting and causing issues with things like autoimmune disease. So again, one of the problems that they're seeing from the virus is that the body is overreacting. Their immune system, hi Melissa, their immune system is overreacting to the situation. You've probably heard the term cytokine storm. And so one of the research that I read is finding that the people that have had it, or at least their initial research, shows that people that were having the severe reactions were very, very low in T regulatory cells. Those are also known as Tregs. Again, I'm just hearing things and picking them up. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm still doing major research and I don't feel like I know enough about it to teach it, but it will become important and part of what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about how, and some of these, you guys, this is just common. It's already known, but I find it fascinating that nobody's talking about it. We're all talking about, again, masks. I mean, great. Like, if that really helps, then awesome. That's something that we should do. The problem is, considering the standard American diet, because the first thing I'm going to talk about is cut out sugar and junk, that we're not doing all that we can in order to help not be the problem. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about gut health because a good portion of your immune system is built in your gut. And of course, there are some major things that can go wrong there. If you're somebody who has had years and multiple situations of having antibiotics, that is something that you really need to focus on and approach, do some self-education, and know how to take care of that. Because when you have antibiotics, not only does it kill the bad bugs, it kills the good bugs. And the good bugs are part of the balance of your flora, of your microbiome, your gut, where a good portion of your immune system functions. So I know it's really fascinating that it's not something that we learn about. They're just really in the past, I'm going to say past 5 or 6 years even, really coming down to talking about gut health and what that involves. You probably have heard of probiotics and prebiotics, and those are things that are important, but you should understand how that participates and what does damage to that, and then what you can do to support that, because it is very, very important. So, of course, the first thing I'm going to tell you is you got to cut out the garbage. The interesting thing is, as Americans, we eat so much sugar. It's in everything. Now, I'm not even talking about, hey, I went down and bought Twinkies. I'm talking about you had spaghetti sauce, ketchup, salad dressing. They hide it in everything, and you don't always know. So part of that is just really starting to pay attention and eat better. Now, I know that's not easy. I'm also very aware that a lot of us eat for to soothe ourselves, right? It's comfort. We eat comfort foods. The problem is, again, now we're kind of contributing to the problem, because of course, the more of us that are eating junk and garbage, now our immune systems, besides the fact that we've been indoors for how long, that's a downside, because we're not out in the open where you actually start to become, what's the word? You're not immune, because you're in a sterile environment, so that your body doesn't know what to do when it actually gets an environment where there's things it has to fight off. So there's some major situations there, but one of the best things you can do to build your immune system is to cut out sugar, junk, and alcohol and smoking. I get it. I get that it's not easy. A mask is easier, right? That's why everybody's like, you gotta do it, because if you're not doing it, you're selfish. It's not enough. It's just not enough. Even if the masks work, it's not enough, because if this comes back around next year, we got to be prepared for that. And you're going to have to do that by building your immune system. I found it really funny. I commented on somebody else's Facebook page last week, that they were really frustrated with the fact that people weren't wearing masks in our area. And I've seen that. I get it. And two things, one of the things that the one person said, which I completely agree with, he said, look, if it helps, then we've done the right thing. And if it doesn't help, I've been inconvenienced. And you know what? I totally agree with that. And I said, but again, my philosophy on this is that the masks might be an answer at the moment, but it's not the solution. And I had somebody argue with me and very offended that I would bring up the fact that diet and nutrition have anything to do with it. And I said, look, you either have a great immune system because you're eating well, or you don't. If you look at the research, 1 teaspoon of sugar drops your immune system suppresses it by 50%. Most of us are eating way more than a teaspoon a day of sugar. So again, it can suppress it, anywhere from an hour to up to 5 or 6. And if you're continuously eating sugar at every meal, you now have a problem. Unfortunately, the standard American diet includes so much processed garbage, which even if you don't think it's sugar, think about bread. I have people say, well, I don't eat sweets. Not a problem. what do you think bread turns into as soon as you eat it? It's a carbohydrate which breaks down into glucose in your body. So again, even if you don't think that you're getting sugar, you are. If you are eating processed food, you one way or another probably are getting enough sugar and getting more than you really should. So unfortunately, that suppresses the immune system. Same thing with alcohol. I find it really fascinating. As I was doing research, I saw that one of the myths out there is that alcohol will kill the virus. And first of all, that's, no offense, the dumbest thing I've ever heard. While isopropyl alcohol might help, or rubbing alcohol might help sterilize, what's in our hand sanitizer, drinking alcohol is not going to take care of the virus in your body. As a matter of fact, it is toxic. Your body has to deal with it before it can do anything else. Alcohol is not technically full of sugar, but it does have a response with the liver. Not something we're going to totally talk about today, but if you think about being intoxicated, toxic, intoxicated. I never thought about it that way, but I was listening to a really good podcast by Mark Hyman today, and a couple of actors who actually have done some really good research and are doing their own documentary on sugar and how it plays such an incredibly it really prevents the good health of our country, especially in areas of low economic areas. Okay, Donnelly says, you're so education on this. You know what though, people take offense. I get it. Like, people want the easiest option, and I get it. You know what, we all want our loved ones to be safe and healthy. My parents are considered high risk. They're older. My mother is a type 2 diabetic. I get it. Like, I want them to be safe. The problem is I just don't feel like we're going about it the right way. And nobody wants to be told that they're doing the wrong thing. Like, I get it. But you know what? We're going to have to tackle this by doing the things that make sense. And drinking alcohol because it's considered essential, which I find complete BS, is a problem. So unfortunately, what alcohol does is it prevents our bodies from working, actually prevents our immune cells from working efficiently. So, again, if you're doing things to prevent your immune system from working, now you're putting yourself in harm's way. The second thing I want to talk about is getting outside. No, I'm very aware there's areas of the country where that's very difficult to do, extremely urban areas. But here's the deal, vitamin D, there's no downside to vitamin D, getting vitamin D there. And I know you can get it in some foods, but most of us are deficient on vitamin D. Now, benefits of getting the right amount of vitamin D, and of course that is done by getting in the sun, getting as much skin contact with the sun as possible. I know it's more difficult in some areas than others, especially when you're further away from the equator. But here is how vitamin D works within your body. So what it says, and again, I'm going to read because I want to get it right. It says it tempers damaging inflammatory response of white blood cells. So again, your white blood cells are what help to, sorry, that's my house. It's too dark in my room, and so people come in my house and my dogs go crazy. And you can see my daughter in the background right there. There she is.
I'm back.
And she's back. So again, you need your white blood cells to do their job. The other thing that when you are deficient in vitamin D, it's associated with increased autoimmune as well as increased susceptibility to infection. So what does that tell you? Again, when you are deficient in certain vitamins, you are more susceptible to disease, to infection. Again, why would you not do everything you possibly could to make your body resistant to having extreme reaction or problems from this situation? Now, in the beginning, I really had a hard time. For a moment, I thought, this has got to be a hoax. It just doesn't feel right. Now, I feel there's some weird stuff going on in the background, but regardless, you should have your immune system running as efficient and healthy as possible, just for the reason that your environment, you don't know what you're going to come in contact with. Number 3, eat real food. A lot of us take vitamins and supplements, which is great. The problem is a lot of those are synthetic and your body does not use them as well as they do from real food. That's how your body was designed. So unless you're taking, now there are some, multivitamins that are processed, they're built with superfoods. Those are a better option than the synthetics, but you're still better off to get that from real food. The problem is most of us are not eating those things that give us the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that we need. We're eating empty processed calories. Now, I know that there's foods that are enriched with vitamins. You know what? I call BS on that. It's not, they're just making it sound good. It's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. And of course, the best option is going to be through food, through healthy food that's been grown with the right fertilizer, so you get the right amount of nutrients in it. And unfortunately, a lot of our soil at this point is void of that. So again, you're not always getting what you should be getting when you're eating fruits and vegetables. So keep that in mind. So really, it's important that you get vitamins, probiotics, other vitamins that support. By the way, the vitamins and minerals help support those Treg cells that we just talked about. But you also need zinc, vitamin C, B6 supplements or supports your biochemical reaction in the immune system. So again, there's definitely some positive there. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant. Now, learned some great things from my mother-in-law. When she was still alive, she was very, very into herbal supplements, which personally I actually like more than using anything that's synthetic. But one great thing she taught me was about echinacea. So while there's not a lot of supplements that are going to do as good of a job as, they're going to support a little bit, but really you can't out supplement a bad diet. If you're not getting the vitamins and minerals you need from the foods that you eat, trying to supplement all those is going to be very difficult, at least to get an efficient amount. But echinacea enhances your immune system. So I'd have to do some more research to tell you exactly why. I just know that that's something that we use for a long time. Personally, we use the tincture form in my family to help enhance your immune system. All right, number 4, get enough sleep. I know I know we're all in this kind of weird vacuum of time where we're either getting really randomly weird sleep because we're home all day and we're still quarantined, or our job is still not available, or for a lot of people, they just don't get enough sleep, whether it's anxiety or just, the older I got, I struggled a little bit for quite a while with getting enough sleep. But unfortunately, if you don't get enough sleep, it reduces your immune system and causes some issues there. So in order to bolster the Treg cells that we just talked about and your ability to fight off infection, you have to get ample sleep. I actually teach my clients that sleep trumps exercise, because if they're not getting enough sleep, there's absolutely zero benefit to doing the exercise. They're not going to be able to build muscle if they're not getting enough sleep. You don't build muscle when you lift, you break it down. You actually grow when you sleep and rest and recover. So when it comes to your immune system, it's the same. You have to get ample sleep in order to do that. Which brings us to number 5, which is minimize stress. Now, in short-term, stress and cortisol can actually boost your immune system, but we're talking brief. We're talking, if you have a minute, you're dealing with something, your stress level goes up, you're running away from a situation. But when you have long-term stress and long-term cortisol release, most of us know that affects us in a really negative way. And unfortunately, that's pretty common in this day and age with the amount of stress that comes at us from whether it's job, loss of job, whatever it is. Of course, a lot of us deal with that on a regular basis, but unfortunately, the long-term release of cortisol leads to an overworked and overtired immune system, which again, then is going to become a problem when it has to fight things off. All right, so exercise. Now, when this woman was offended, she said, well, this is one time where diet and exercise aren't going to work. And I'm like, I beg to differ. I really think that, nutrition is the biggest part. It really is. Like I said, the standard American diet is so devoid of nutrients and healthy, the vitamins and the minerals and things that our body needs to function. It's kind of like putting really, really crappy gas in your car. Like it sputters and it might run, but it's kind of, it doesn't really want to run. When we're putting crappy, and most of like for anybody who's eaten healthy, or at least, clean, healthy, whole food for any amount of time, and then you go and you eat, some deep fried whatever, and you just feel disgusting. Duh. That's because your body just can't deal with it. It's not good for running your system. It's really crappy fuel, right? Obviously that's the first part of it, but exercise does make a difference. Couple of things that I've learned over time. Number 1, your lymph system is part of your immune system. So first of all, exercise improves, I gotta read it because I just gotta make sure I say this right, improves your circulation, which allows cells, I can't even read my own writing, that's always great. Anyway, which allows your immune system to move throughout the body efficiently and do their job. Your lymph system has no pump. So if you sit all the time, those cells can't circulate throughout the body. So, we talked about those Tregs that gotta move around and do their job. they can't get where they need to go if you're sitting all the time. So, you know, that's why they say after a meal, get up and walk for a little bit. It allows your body to process. It allows your circulatory system to work well, and it allows your body to get things done. So I know it seems simple, but for some odd reason, we're having a hard time understanding that there are things that we can do to help make a difference in this situation we're dealing with, but nobody wants to do them because it's too hard. I'm like, okay, but y'all want me to wear a mask. If I'm willing to wear the mask, you need to be willing to do your part, which is eat well, take care of yourself, and do better. I mean, to me, it makes zero sense that we're fixing, it's kind of like taking the medication that masks the symptom, but we don't actually address the problem itself. It's the same thing. We're doing that right now. So take care of yourself. I want you to be healthy and happy. That is why I do this. I don't charge for it. I'm just trying to educate you and get you to pay more attention and maybe even do some education and learning and research of your own. I just try to kind of make it easy, simple, so that it makes sense and maybe motivate you to actually be active in your own health. So have an incredible week, you guys. Hopefully, I know back east you guys are dealing with some crazy hot weather and some humidity. So please take good care of yourself, do the best you can, and have an incredible week, you guys. We'll talk later. That's Q&A Wednesday.